Hey, Jay from Will's VG Addiction here with the second take because my mic cut out in the middle of the first one. All right, so we got three games here on the table. We've got a working and perfectly fine Conker's Bad Fur Day. We have a completely jacked Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. And we have a Japanese Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time in a very sorry state, but working. So the purpose of this video is I bought this Conker's Bad Fur Day on eBay for like 70 something dollars, $72 and change, I think. Swapped the board because this was the original board and it's completely jacked. And I'll show you more about that a little later. I had this Star Wars Shadows of the Empire that I didn't care for. Not a whole lot of value there. It's just an extra game sitting around. So swapped the board on that. Now I have a nice Conker's Bad Fur Day. This board is completely trashed. So a lot of problems here. The seller that sold it to me said that I think they said that they messed up one of the pads trying to fix a trace or something like that. So the pad here is completely gone. They scraped away quite a bit of the solder mask there. And I had these completely desoldered. I just soldered these back on very quickly and very dirtily. Is that a word, dirtily? But it looks like trash. We'll clean it up later. I just wanted to secure all of the chips to the board so I can actually start working on them. But we got quite a few problems here. This pad right here is completely gone. There's a few pads here that are disconnected from the board. Kind of hard to see there, but we'll check that out underneath the microscope. And then this pad here is gone, and some of the traces here are completely jacked. It looks like maybe that's a little disconnected too. I'm not sure. I think everything else on the board was good except for those things here, for those specific chips, like the ROM chips. And then this pad. So what we're going to try to do is restore that pad. And the reason I brought this one out is because this is a game that is in a very sorry state. I had worked on this many years ago, and it was just sitting there non-working for the longest time. I don't remember what game I did a board swap with, but this thing was pretty corroded. There are some traces here that are basically gone. There are some traces underneath this chip that were gone. Ran some wires. You can still see some cap and tape sticking out of there. It looks like crap, to be honest, but it actually does work. This pad right here was completely gone, or I think maybe half of it was still there. And I recently bought a roll of, well, a couple rolls actually of copper tape here, and I came upon this like shortly after I had bought those rolls, and I was like, maybe that would work if we tried to solder that to what was left of that pad. And it actually does. It looks like absolute trash, but believe it or not, this is a working game. So I was able to solder that tape on there, and it's actually very sturdy. I can put the game in and out of the console and it doesn't come off. Like it's really, really sturdy. So that got me thinking, why don't I try to restore this one instead of just letting it sit in a bin for parts? I don't know. Let's see. I know there's Ocarina of Time. There is Shadows of the Empire. And then there's Conker's Bad Fur Day that uses board NUS 02A-03. I'm not sure what other games use that. If I do remember, and if there are more, I'll just pop them up on the screen here. If not, neither here nor there. It doesn't really matter for the state of this or the purpose of this video. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go ahead and try to fix that pad first. And if that goes well, we'll go ahead and try to fix the rest and see if we can get this thing working. And that will go into my freebies bin or my giveaway bin for when I do my eBay sales or whatever. Maybe one of these days I'll reach a status on YouTube, I highly doubt it, where I'll be able to do giveaways and stuff and it'll actually matter. Again, I'm very comfortable where I'm at right now. I don't need the riffraff around here. 900 is actually way more than I should have, to be honest with you. 900 subscribers. Anyway, neither here nor there. Let's get to fixing this. I will state now, this is going to be a long form video. I'm not going to skip over a lot. So if you don't like long form videos, go ahead and kick rocks or skip to the end and see if it gets fixed. Man, I feel like a dope. I just figured out how to work a setting on this cell phone app that allows me to adjust the brightness or the contrast. It was great the first take that I did it. Looked like shit the second one that I just finished. I guess I accidentally touched something, but it's not very user friendly. So forgive that first portion for being very dark. Now this part right here is the most key part in this repair. So what I'm going to try to do is cut this piece of copper tape down to size, solder it on there and not have it bulge out to where it can actually get inserted into the console with no issues. And the main thing that I don't know, because there is no copper to solder to here, is this actually going to stick and is it going to stay? I don't know. So I've got myself an X-Acto knife here, and I'm just going to go ahead and try to cut that down to the size that I need. So let me try to use a scissor to make that even on the bottom. This will be the bottom part. Like I said, long form video. If you don't like the actual process, peace out. And it looks like maybe about a third of that width, right about roughly there, I think will be okay. Now, I said I was going to use the X-Acto knife, but I think actually using the scissors is way better. That might be too thick, or yeah, I think that'll be okay. Maybe cut it down ever so slightly. And of course it sticks to the scissor. That should be just fine, I think. Right about there. And you know what? I'm going to leave it at, I might cut it down just a little bit on the top, but I think having that extra length there will be helpful to solder to later. It's going to look not as good, but I think that'll be just fine. So now, let's try to get the back peeled off, which is not very easy with these gloves on. But I've got to use gloves because I've got, I get flux all over everything when I'm working on stuff, and I really don't like getting that stuff on my hands at all. Alright, so we've got the back peel off there. I will cut out like a lot of the fumbling around and nonsense, I think, just to kind of make sure that this is not too long. And I know these are tedious and boring sometimes. Don't really care. There are two kinds of people really that come here. People that come to see actual repairs and want to fix their own stuff and get some ideas. Not saying I'm like an authority on that, but you might have an idea sparked. Or people that enjoy actually watching the repair process. I don't care about the people that just want to click on and for whatever reason, and I don't know what they're looking for, but I get a lot of people complaining these days. I don't care. It's not for you. There's other stuff out there for you. Move on. I'm just going to cut that and try not to go too deep. I want to cut the board. I also don't want that copper to slide on over to the other tray, so even though there's solder mask on there or whatever, it should be fine. I want it to look kind of decent too. So I think that might be a little too thick. I really don't want to get solder on the other pins. So I'm going to use some Captain tape as well. That might be a little too thick. It actually is too thick. There's a part of me that wants to say good enough, but that is honestly too thick. And what we don't want is these pins shorten out together or shorten together. So let's slice that down just ever so slightly. Is that going to come off? Not really. It's very finicky to work with this stuff too. When you're trying to get a small piece, I might have to start all over. Let me just cut that down a little bit. I think that is a little better. A little better, not much. And of course the tape kind of crinkled up and it's sticking to itself now. Not really a massive deal, but let me turn that around so the bigger part is on the bottom. No, that's not going to work either. Alright, so I think that, shit, there's no stickiness left on the backside because I done fumbled around with it too much. I think that's going to be okay. I'm going to get a little bit of that Kapton tape, whatever the hell you call it. We're going to stick some of this to the pins on the side so we don't accidentally, it's my Sean Connery, I guess, so we don't accidentally solder on to that. Just cover these up. I don't care if it hangs off, it's totally fine. It's a lot of work to go through for a game that's basically going to be, like I said, a freebie. Or if I was ever going to sell this, it'd be literally $1, maybe $2 at the most. But all right, let's move that out of the way again. It's not doing me any good right now. All right. I think maybe I might need to try with another piece of tape because, like I said, there's really next to no adhesive on the bottom of that. But let's give her a go, see what happens. Maybe move this piece of tape ever so slightly because I'm going to have to secure it to what's left of that trace there. There we go. Of course, I'll move the piece of tape again. You know, I'm going to get rid of that. I'm just going to do that. Let's grab this one, the other portion, and we're going to cut that down to about 75% or so of where it is currently. It's very hard to work with this stuff, I'll tell you. It's already getting fucked up. You know what? That'll be fine. It's a little crinkled up. That's okay. Keep it moving. We ain't got all day. I just need some adhesive on the bottom portion to stick. We can worry about cutting that down right now. Let's get underneath the microscope because this is starting to piss me off. All right, so let's try to size this piece of trash up as best as we can. And I think this would actually be a great opportunity to tack that down. Get a little bit of flux on there. We'll tack it down at least at the top so it doesn't move around. Hopefully that doesn't backfire on me and I don't lift that trace, what's left of it. I just need to clip that ever so slightly. Damn it. That's going to be ugly, but I think honestly good enough. This ain't winning no beauty pageants here. Now, like I said, I don't know how much good this will do, because on the other game I had something to stick the tape to, the copper tape. There was a little bit of extra pin left. There's nothing here, so can I get this to be firm enough? Oh, shit. Well, that's not going well. Can I get this to be firm enough to not move when it gets inserted and removed from the card slot? It doesn't look like that's going to work. That's still too thick too. You can piss off. Let's see what we got going on the bottom side. Is there enough clearance? Not really. So what I was thinking is maybe bend this down. Oh, that might work actually. We can bend this down and possibly use like some glue or some let's turn that light up just a little bit, because I'm barely even seeing this now myself. So what we could do is use some glue or epoxy, like just a little dab to keep it secured at the bottom. That might work. We're having some technical difficulties here in the studio. I'm just gonna fire everybody. You're all done. Anyway, enough of that. So we've got what was left of that pin. This is pretty stable now, it's firm. What I was saying is that I want to use some epoxy underneath this and then a little bit on the bottom, and it's curved just enough that I can bend it down there, and I think it'll secure. I think that'll be a good way of tacking this down, and then we can go ahead and worry about reattaching a wire here to what's left of that trace. But I think that's the way to go. Probably should have thought of that in the first place. So while we prep that, I don't know what is up with this stupid camera. Both of them. Or maybe it's user error. Probably the latter. So I'm going to use some 2-part epoxy. Some of this good stuff right here. We're just going to use a tiny dab. Let's do that now. We're going to let it sit, and then we'll come back in roughly an hour and see if we can't get this thing working. All right, so we're going to use some of this clear weld. I don't need much at all, just a tiny little bit. Shit stinks. If you're going to do this, do it in a well-ventilated area, which I am not in. That should be good enough. So I'll grab the end of a Q-tip that's already dirty. Why is it still on the table? That's a great question. We'll cut off one end of that. We'll mix this up. Try to get it as well mixed as possible. I like to wait till it starts getting at least a little bit firm first before I start laying it down, which it's not yet. There we go, it's starting to get thick now. All right, I'm gonna grab, got a demo pick. This is actually very, very handy for this kind of stuff. Let me zoom in a little. Yeah, it's getting pretty good and tacky there. So I just get a little bit of this stuff on the end there. We're gonna lay that down as I stick my fingers in everything. And this is fine because I've got this protective bit of Captain tape to here. Should be just fine. I'm gonna grab my pen. I may have to do this on the microscope too because I can't really see that well. Just gonna lay that down in there. Give it a little bit of mush action. And then bend this little piece down at the bottom just ever so slightly. It should not touch the other pin, I hope. Pull that up just a little bit so it doesn't. I just want it at the very bottom, touching but not overlapping the bottom. Shit. Sorry if you can't see what I'm doing. But I need to see to be able to get this done. And of course, I've gotten the epoxy all over the top layer of this, what's hopefully going to be a pin. That's wonderful. That cannot be there. I'll probably go over this one time once it actually dries with another layer of solder. Just trying to very gently use a little alcohol to wick that up. But doesn't look beautiful by any means. We'll let that set for, like I said, roughly an hour, and then we'll come back. You guys can't even see what the hell I'm doing, can you? God damn it. As stated before, way too much work to do. Why is this not zooming? It's annoying. Absolutely annoying. Let's take these gloves off and try that again. For some reason, it doesn't want to zoom. There we go. That is the farthest it zooms in. Okay. Looks like boo-boo right now, but hopefully it will turn out to be something that's still going to look like boo-boo, but actually work. See you in an hour. You know, I'm actually going to go against my better judgment, and I'm not going to let that dry. While I am waiting for that to dry, instead of, like I said, just setting it off to the side, I'm going to go ahead and start working on the other issues and problems with this board here. So I'm going to get a new set of gloves. Let's look under the microscope real quick and see what we got popping off. All right, I think that's about as good as we are going to get it. To where there's just enough of balance between being blurry on the screen and being blurry in the eyepiece. So we've got a few problems here. Grab my little grinding tool if I can find it. There we go. So I'm gonna grind away just a little bit of that solder mask there because we need a little bit of space to work with. So we've got to recreate a pad here. As we look along everything else here, everything looks okay. Don't worry about that. I'll fix that later. Again, that was just to secure this board, or the chips to the board. This pad, it's there. It looks okay. I think it'll be fine. I just need to make sure I have some space to work with again there. I'm gonna have to secure that. This is completely lifted off. We'll have to secure that. I'm going to give myself a little bit more clearance than I normally do. I don't usually do that. I like to have just a teeny tiny little bit because I want this to, whenever I do repairs, I try to make it as inconspicuous as possible. But in this case, I mean, there's no hiding any of this stuff or trying to make it look conspicuous. So we're going to just make it easy to work with. So we'll have to secure that down here by running a wire or using a component leg, whatever you like to do. Again, ignore the mess here. We'll clean that up later. This pad, I think that's okay. Let me check. And just do a continuity check to see if that pad goes up to the next point up. So, because it looks like it might be disconnected from this one all the way up here. And is that the right one? No, that one. So that's fine. That might be better for you guys if I turn the light down a little bit more. I think the rest of them are okay. This one obviously is not. That's completely gone. There's a bunch of trace there that was gone. And again, I didn't do any of this. This was all the previous seller. So we're going to run a wire We're gonna have to create a pad there, which there's a few ways to do that. So let's start at the top. So I've got this wire here. This stuff is very, very thin. You can see based on the size of my fat, meaty fingers here. If I can grab a strand. Oh man, this is annoying. Okay, so I can grab a strand here. You can see that it's very, very thin. It's roughly the diameter of a human hair. So one thing I like to do is, say this is the pin, right? A lot of times I like to use wire and I'll just wrap it around the pin to create a connection and just use that and connect the actual wire strand to the trace. I don't know, we can try something different here. I wish this this copper tape was a little easier to work with. Let me zoom out a little bit. Try to zoom out a little bit. One thing we could try, I guess, is take a piece of the copper tape here and just like pop it down on a pin and see if that works. I think that actually might be okay to try. Let's do that now. When I got this, it was attached to a couple thicker rolls, and when I pulled it apart, the inside came out, so I'm just kind of using that until I get to the part that's not sticking out. Anyway, if I cut that, I can actually use that for two different paths. If I cut that down, make a nice little small square there. Let's get back under the microscope real quick. I'll show you what I'm going to attempt to do. So I'll pull this off. I'll pull the piece of tape off the backing. There's like 1,000 ways you can do this. There's no one right way. Somebody's probably going to try to correct me there, but there's no one right way. Whatever you feel comfortable doing, and if it works, then that's the right way. So we can take this little piece of tape, which is way too big. We'll cut that down just a little bit more. Actually, we could probably even just roll it up, to be honest. Might do that on the next one. That's way too big, but it's fine. No big deal. So we can pop that down, right, and have that pin penetrate the middle. And when I was saying roll it up, we can just like literally just crinkle it up. It's gonna look like shit, but it will be honestly good enough. I don't think anybody's really gonna care. The state of this thing is just god awful anyway, and like I said, it's better this than just sitting in a bin somewhere rotting away. I don't know why I would ever use any parts on this thing again, unless I get another Star Wars that's completely screwed up. Alright, so that's, god damn, that's gonna look like shit. I'm gonna need another tweezer here to help me out. I mean, we don't really care if it looks like shit, but we don't want it to look too bad, right? So we'll just kind of crinkle that up just a little bit and try to make it look somewhat similar to what an actual pad would look like. When you lay it down, it's still gonna look like doo-doo. But I think we're okay. Let me turn on my fan here. So I'll bring this crap in. Get a little flux. I'll be mindful to keep an eye on what we're doing and where we're at in the space of the camera. Lay a little flux down. Get our solder. Wait for the iron to warm up. All right. So we'll do this and make it super, super easy. So, I'm trying to lay that down and just make it a little bit neater looking, but again, it's going to look like shit any way you do it. It is what it is. The important thing is that it makes the connection. It's on the pin and solidly on the pin. Now we're going to get our piece of wire. I'm going to come back to the iPhone cam here, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to roll out a little bit. I don't even attach it or detach it from the roll there. It's fine. So probably can't see this too well because the strand is so small. Maybe zoom in. So I'm going to try to straighten out a little bit at the end, and I'm going to use my X-Acto knife here, and I'm just going to scrape some of the enamel off of there so that when I actually solder to this, it sticks. And I don't want to lay it down and cut it. You just want to scrape. Again, we're not trying to win a beauty pageant here, so this is if you want to get the game to work. Now, sure, there's other ways to do this. Just use a giant fat jumper wire if you like, but I feel like there's no artistry in that. I'm being honest. So what I didn't do before, let's get a little bit of excess solder and just lay that down on the pad there. I would not trust that. You could probably get away with just having the tape meet the trace there, but I wouldn't trust that to be solid. Ooh, I got a lot of dirt and crud on this tip here. Let me clean that off. Yeah, I think I just fucked that up. Oh, I accidentally broke it. Cool. Knocked it away. That's fine. It's on there, but we're gonna make it a little bit more solid and a little bit more sturdy. Get that out of the way. Can we see there? All right, so just lay a little bit down there, just like so. Just run it over there, that wire, make sure it's nice and secure. I think that'll be fine. Just trying to straighten it out a little bit. All right, that should be good enough. So yes, it looks like a bag of ass. Absolutely. But is it gonna work? You're goddamn right. And then we'll go over that with some solder mask or some nail polish or something non-conductive, just make sure that stays in place. So what we'll do right now, we will go ahead and zoom out from that, and then we'll do a little continuity test and just make sure that we're good. We'll hear our little beep here. Oops. So we're going to do a little continuity test real quick and just make sure as we tap this pin here, we're going to go right on the top and then come down. Where does that go? I can't see at all. Here. Is that right? Let's put the glasses on. So we're going to do a little continuity test just to make sure we're good. We're going to tap the top of that pin there. Just the tip. Just the tip. And then we're going to touch that to the pad that it goes down to, which is here. And we're good to go. So we're going to do basically what we did right there here. And then we'll take a look at the ones here that are disconnected, whichever ones those are. So let's keep it moving. So now that you've seen the technique, let's see. Let's fix this one real quick. This one's gonna, is that disconnected? Let's take a look. Continuity test there. This one for sure is not. This one I think is fine. This one is the other one I'm worried about. It's fine too. It's a little flimsy looking, so it's just this one, and what about this one? That one's okay. So this shouldn't be too bad actually. Pretty easy, so we're gonna make sure again. So let's do a little scrape. And prep that area a little bit better. It looks a little nasty, a little dirty. Grab a Q-tip, clean that off, so we have something nice to solder to. In keeping with the theme of using tape, let's just use a little tiny piece of tape on that. And when I say tiny, I mean tiny. Let's cut that real thin. Only because I don't want to throw this away, to be honest. It's a waste. Now again, normally, oh, did I cut that so small that there's nothing there? I sure did. Normally, I would use that little bit of wire and I would just wrap it around the pin and go from there. But, oh, there it is. When the piece of tape is so small, it just tends to stick to the scissor. All right, so we've got this here again. That's still too big. It's messy. It's just messy. I don't want to do that. I think that will be a little bit better. Maybe. What really sucks about working with the flux, though, like anytime you touch anything, it just picks it right up. So unless you're cleaning your tools constantly, you're going to get the little fibers and junk sticking. It's fine. No big deal. You know what? I might not even need that tape or that wire. If we can just go with that. Like I said, the only reason I'm doing it, it's going to look kind of shitty, but yeah, let's save that for this part down here. Or, you know what? Let's just throw that away. I'm going to clean my tools real quick because this is getting on my nerves. They're dirty. Same technique there. I'm not going to show that, but just scrape a little bit of that enamel off the wire. And then we're going to take our wire. And in this case, I think it's best if we go ahead and set some solder down here first. Actually, you know what? I don't even have to wrap it around. I just need to make a strong connection. So a nice fat solder blob should be just fine. With wire, of course. All right. Fucking iron heat up. There we go. So we've got our blob. I don't know what I'm thinking. I don't know why I was thinking that I wouldn't have to use tape or anything on there. It was very delicate work too. You can't, I really don't think you can do this unless you have a microscope. There might be some very talented people on there blessed with great eyes, which I definitely don't have. I'm blind as a fucking bat. It sucks. I used to have great vision when I was younger. But 16 years of working in front of a computer 12 plus hours a day has really killed my vision. It's annoying. Overdoing it there, I guess, a little. We'll go ahead and remove that wire. Just twist it about until it breaks off. Really don't need to pull on it. You shouldn't pull on it because you'll pull the trace up. There we go. Continuity test on that. We'll just do it as we go. Usually I wait till the end, but we'll do it as we go. So I like to make sure that there's continuity by actually just touching the top instead of touching anything in the blob, and just make sure that that actually gives us some continuity. God damn it. Okay, good to go. Moving along. So next we'll tackle the big ugly in the room. Wait a minute, did we get that one? Is that one okay? That looks terrible. Check that one again. I already forgot. I don't know if I did this one yet. Yeah, so that one, oh wow, that's very obviously severed. We'll do the same thing there that we just did. I could probably get away with that, but I won't. We'll give it some flexibility by adding that wire. Because if you, what I see a lot, just in like factory games, right? That, for whatever reason, who knows why it happens. But if this solder cracks or whatever, like there's a disconnection. If this is already going to be weak, so for whatever reason, if the board flexes somehow and it cracks that solder, you're disconnected again. So we're just going to add a wire, and then even if the solder cracks somehow, the wire is still going to be in there and it's still going to be attached. So that's what we'll do. Give us some scrumph and some flexibility. So like I said, this is my preferred method of doing this, but you are totally free if you like to do it like that. If you just want to run a fat wire from here, from point A to point B, and not even bother with the trace repair, that's totally fine too. Don't let anybody tell you different. Obviously, you know, the better work you do, the better. If you're trying to resell at any point, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend, the better work you do, the more money you can get, rather than having wires and shit, like giant wires all over the place. But I don't try to resell any of this stuff. If I do, I used to love reselling. I used to love selling at conventions, and anything that I had that was repaired would generally be like $1. Or like I say, now that I'm stuck just doing eBay, I usually throw this stuff in as freebies. Like if people spend a lot of money on something, I'll throw in some repaired games. They're perfectly fine and usable. I mean, they may be ugly, but they definitely make nice little bonus throw-ins for customers. I think add some value, you know, as a seller. So I think I'm going to go with the tape again on this one. Make my little pad. And I'm just going to use whatever's left on the rest of this little piece of tape here, which more than likely is going to be too much. It doesn't look massive when I'm holding on to it, but that's actually okay. I think that'll be fine. Obviously, under the microscope, it looks way bigger than the little tiny piece that I have in my fingertips. So let's see if we can't push that through. Good to go. I don't care if it tears. It's totally fine. So we'll crumple that up a little bit and try to mush it down in that hole if we can, just to make sure we get some pretty good contact on that pin. I'm actually pretty excited about this. I think this will work. So not that the game is anything I give a shit about, but it's just, even the stuff that I can't fix or haven't been able to fix in the past, being able to still be able to fix it as I learn new techniques and try new things, like that's actually really cool to me. The goal has always been, and it's certainly not possible, like no matter how much we want to do it, it's certainly not possible to fix everything, and it never will be. But it's really nice to be able to fix a vast majority of the stuff. I absolutely love that about this hobby. So this piece of wire, I'm just going to run it from, let's see, from one end. I'm going to make it a long one and just run it all the way across that that path. I think that's probably the best way to go about this, instead of trying to run two pieces of wire. So we'll start up in this direction here. Let me get a little bit closer to the end piece with my tweezer. I really need to get something to secure this thing to the table somehow. Those helping hands, man, those things suck. They're too wobbly. I hate them. They don't actually help. I've seen other people use like these little things that are actually perfect for holding cartridges, but I have no idea where they get those or what they're even called. It would really solve the problem of all this shit wobbling around. I'm gonna have to use a piece of tape or something to secure it because this is pissing me off. All right, good old piece of painter's tape will secure that just nice and dandy. Be great. All right, let's try that again because that was not going well at all. It's wobbling about way too much. And it's making it work way harder than it needs to be. To the best of my ability, I try to have the trace followed, or I try to get the wire to follow the trace as best as possible so it looks a little nicer. Not always possible, but that's what I'm trying to do there. Make sure that doesn't touch. Move over. There we go. So just gonna look kind of trash. The only problem with taping this thing down is I can't rotate it now. What an annoying process. That's fine. Actually, doesn't look too bad. You be the judge. Okay, so I think we're actually good here. I'm going to go ahead and resolder everything else. Let me just take one more quick look at it. I think that was everything that was jacked up. Cool. So let's go ahead and put a ton of flux on everything. So we're going to add flux to every pin that we haven't already touched up before we even get started. And we're definitely going to have to do an ultrasonic cleaning on this thing because this is nasty. All right, so easy day here. I like my curved tip. I use this probably for a lot of things that I shouldn't be using it for, but it's very versatile in my opinion, and it's amazing for drag soldering. And a situation like this is perfect for drag soldering. So that's what we're gonna do. Now what I need to do is be mindful of the work that I've done and not go over that again because it'll probably fuck it up. Ooh, am I on the cold spot? I sure am. just make sure. Oh man, it looks a little sloppy. We'll clean that up a little bit. But let's pull that back and zoom out a little and maybe add a little bit of light so you can actually see. Maybe you can see fine, but I can't. So the most important thing here is just to make sure that we don't have any bridges. And you always want to take a look at it from an angle like that to make sure you're not bridged. So that one, I'm going to clean that up because we got the wire sticking out. Actually, let's just touch that up now. That should be fine. Wow, that really does look like shit. I'll kind of mush that back down onto the board a little bit, but just kind of touch that up, clean off the tip, and just make sure that we don't have any giant, massive bubbles. I hate like massive solder blobs like that, unnecessary, you know. And that can be a product of the drag soldering, but it's just the easiest, quickest way to do this. Sometimes you'll use a little too much solder, no big deal though. You don't want the Hershey's Kisses, but we don't want it to look like that either. Probably use some more flux on here, but I'm not gonna do that. Just make sure that we're good. Everything's connected, and I'm not rubbing hard. It's just that, you know, when you drag it along the pins, it makes that squeaky noise. Of course, you want to get the pins and the pad at the same time. What you see me not doing as I'm trying to get the excess solder off. Really, that's good enough. I mean, I don't have to do all that. I really don't. Okay. So I think we look pretty good with the exception of that piece right there, which you probably can't see because there's too much light. And as I'm looking through the microscope, there's not enough light. Great. We'll just mush that down, try to get it a little bit flatter. And you'll see a bunch of that black stuff coming off. That's the adhesive from the back piece of the tape that we used. Not a huge deal, not at all. So that's good. I'm going to be super gentle with it because I haven't secured those wires yet. But I'll go ahead and clean that up some. Like I said, I got to be extra gentle with it for now. And when I say secure the wires, I mean put some sort of solder mask or whatever on top of it so they don't break. So I'm just going to use a paintbrush. And these areas weren't touched at all, so I'm going to be a little bit rougher with that. Just get all this crud off. And of course, like I said, this is before like a really good heavy cleaning, an ultrasonic cleaning or whatever, toothbrush or whatever, just to get the massive amount of crud and flux off of there, because it's absolutely disgusting. And when this stuff starts to harden, it gets very, very thick and goopy, and it just gets on everything. It's annoying as hell. Great flux though. I mean, I would much rather have this stuff than the stuff that burns off quickly. I hate that Kester crap. Ugh. So one more round of the rubbing alcohol, or isopropyl alcohol, whatever people like to call it these days. Back in my day, we used to call it rubbing alcohol. And of course, before we try this, we'll give it a second look and just make sure everything stayed where it was supposed to stay. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the front side and see if we've given it enough time to settle, and where we're looking there. So where the hell did I put that damn brush? There we go. Man, I'm not zoomed out, am I? God damn it. How much of that did you all actually see? I may have to skip that. But it's very difficult to be mindful of the camera angles. I got the computer off to the side, so I can't really see what you guys are seeing. And I'm just not used to trying to do that. Now, I don't think I'll ever get used to it. And the main purpose here is to fix the shit, not entertain necessarily. But like I said, otherwise, why are we doing the video, right? So I guess we got to try a little harder. Okay, let's switch back over to the microscope. Take a look at the pin and see if it's secured at all. Nope, it's still moving. So we're gonna have to. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and attach that little wire right there just for the hell of it. Let's just knock that out, and then I can let this thing sit for however long I need to let it sit for. But right now, I just want to get that wire attached. So, again, same deal. Scrape, scrape, scrape on the wire. And we're just going to tack a little bit of that on there. And I don't want to use too much flux because I don't want that interacting with the epoxy, if I can at all help that. Man, I've got like next to no light here, but it looks really good on the computer. If not, just a little blurry. Damn it. I think I got epoxy on the trace. It's not trying to stick there at all. We're going to have to burn some of that off. Fuck out of here. Damn it. And that fucking pad is moving left and right like there's nobody's business. That's not good. Fucking shit. So I just want to tack it down right to the top of that pin, and I will leave it alone for a while. Now, instead of trying to twist and twist, we're just going to cut that at that point. And now just position it again, ever so slightly away from the other pin. Shit. That's not going well. That might be too close. We'll leave it alone for now. Fuck. I don't think that's gonna work. We're gonna try it though. The only way you'll actually know is if you leave it alone for a while and let it dry, and then see what happens from there. You know, the problem there is that if it doesn't stick too well, which I don't think it will, it's gonna pull on that trace. Maybe some heat will actually help that. I don't know. Could very well be wrong. Alright. We'll stop fucking with it for like 2 hours, an hour, whatever. And pick it up again and see if we have any progress. Alright, friends and family, I think we are ready to do the test. So we've let enough time to pass to where the epoxy is cured and it's hardened and it's not moving around. Let's check it out and see how it works. We'll clean this up in a moment, but first let's take a look at this Legend of Zelda. I'm just going to prove that this piece of trash works. We're going to, wow, it's crunchy. Pop that in the old Nintendo 64 and try not to drop it on the floor. Hey, I'm a poet, didn't even know it. All right, enough with that. Turn that on. Turn that on. Oh, you know what? It'd be a good idea if I actually put the AV cable in. All right, so now we are set up. We got our AV cable in there. I think we're ready to go. So we'll turn that on. And we see we got a working video game there. There you go. All right, let's take this piece of shit out of here. Pop that to the side. We're going to set our camera back up. Okay, so we are going to test continuity in a second because we haven't done that yet, but I can tap on that. I can push it. It's not moving. So that's great. Let's check the continuity and just make sure that we have something attached from that wire to the pin. Make sure it's still, oops, sorry for the shake in there. Make sure that it's still good and steady. And I probably should have done something about that as well. Let's see. There, from there to there. Is there anything higher than that? It's covered up by the tape. Okay, so I think we're good there. I'm going to remove this tape now, which was a very good idea, but to be honest with you, that has definitely saved the surrounding area. And then we're going to clean the pins. Just very, very quickly. This is going to be like, this is not going to be a great cleaning job. I'm just going to clean them enough to where they should be making contact in the console when I put it in. These should already be fine, but these maybe not so much. And hopefully, like I said, I'll hopefully let enough time pass to where that's actually cured in this alcohol isn't going to react to the epoxy as it's drying. Probably should have just left it overnight, to be honest, but that's okay. That doesn't look terribly bad. I mean, it still looks bad, but could be a hell of a lot worse. So one more continuity test back down here. All right, so I think we're in the clear. There we go. We're gonna pop that in the old Nintendo 64 and hope for the best. A little crunchy there. Whew, a little crunchy. Oh snap! Shit works. Let me turn that that light off real quick. There we go. Damn, that's wild. I'm a little surprised, but not really. I'm actually, to be honest with you, I'm very surprised that we get the remote real quick and turn that shit down. But I'm actually very surprised that the jury-rig pin that we made has actually stayed. I didn't think that was going to stick. I just wanted to try and see if it actually would. I mean, there's no harm. It's just I mean, the only thing that we're losing is time, but that is crazy. So that brings up the repair game quite a bit. Does it have a save on there? That's crazy. That's wild. Save still works. Cool. Yeah, I'm not going to play this game. So, you know, this is actually one of the first Nintendo 64 games that I bought back in the day. The first used games. I think at first I only had WWF, the Aki WWF games, bought new. But I think this was the first used game I bought for Nintendo 64. I've never fucking played it. I may have played it, I take that back. I may have played it for like 20 minutes, like way, way back in the early 2000s, very early 2000s, but never put much time into it. It's supposed to be a great game. Not going to fuck with it right now. But, so that is a nice little learning experience. It really doesn't matter how far gone these games are. As long as the chips are still good It's very, very possible if you want to put in the time and the effort to get these working again. Again, that looks like absolute trash. We know it does. I don't know how long that's going to last either. I can't sit here and be like, this is going to last forever. All right, so we can see that our game is still working here. Sorry for the additional noise. I'm doing laundry in the background there. So let's turn that off. Take a quick look at this. This is a day later. I'll let everything cure. I've cleaned it up. I've set our solder mask on there. So the areas that we've worked on are very, very secure. This right here looks meh. All that looks okay. The most important part, obviously, is that pin that we fashioned, and that's actually quite solid. So I've run this in and out of the console numerous times. Sorry for the shakiness there. Like I said, it still looks a little crappy, and this area is a little bit raised up above the rest of the pins. Kind of hard to see it, but especially on this side right here. But it does work, and it doesn't seem to be too problematic to the system. I don't know if I'd use this long term, but put a little bit of that solder mask down there too on that ridge to keep it firm on there. But it seems to work for the most part. One thing, I don't want to lie to anybody and sit here and say I did something great when I didn't. So because I'm not going to sit here and play through this game, I have tested it. Playing the first level seems fine. I let the little attract screen, you know, when you run the game, and you just let it go through the levels and all the other nonsense, right? Run it to about 8 minutes and 30 seconds, and it gets to the level where you're on a train and the sky is like a reddish orange color, whatever, right? Where that's what's supposed to happen. That like attract screen doesn't show up. So it just goes to a black screen and it freezes. So I tried running an actual working non-fucked copy of the game, and it will run that. So I wanted to know what was actually causing it to stop. Was that like a normal thing, or was that something that was having to do with this here? So I can't get it to go past that screen on the demo. I don't know if it would actually load that level in the game or not. Unfortunately, because I can't test that, there's zero chance of me selling. Well, I wasn't really going to sell it anyway. Even for $1, I don't really necessarily feel comfortable. So that's going to have to be a giveaway probably. I tried a level select, and I can't get that to work at all either, because apparently you got to hold all the C buttons, L and R, the Z trigger, the left on the pad, and like halfway left on the stick, and do that to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left. Way too much nonsense to go through. I can't even get to work once. So I can't really test it any further than that. So we'll call it good. We'll wrap it up. We can say that at least we can play the first few levels, maybe. I would say semi-successful. I just wish I could test it further. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Call it a day. Appreciate y'all watching. Take care. See you on the next one.